How's it going, everyone? This is MindBlank. Welcome back to my channel where I'm trying to simplify the world of ultrawide monitors for you guys. You may be new to ultrawide, or maybe you're thinking of switching to ultrawide, or just want to see what other options are out there. Well, no matter what, I'll give you my personal ultrawide monitor choices for this year. But before we get started though, if you like the content, consider subscribing to help this channel's growth, and also share this video to help others. Now let's get cracking. Older folks here already know I'm big on ultrawide gaming in general. I do my best to bring ultrawide related content as often as I can. I think it to have a huge impact on your overall PC experience with a really fast adoption rate in the last years, but since it's such a fast growing market, it has started becoming more and more segmented, with features kind of overlapping between different brands, models, sizes, etc., making the buyer really confused. So let's shed some light with the basics before we dive into the monitor picks. This is your normal 16x9 1920x1080 24-inch monitor. A 29-inch ultrawide display basically does this. It extends the panel to the sides while keeping the height similar to that of the 24-incher. The smaller ultrawide display size is 29 inches, but there's also a standardish, bigger 34 inches that looks like this compared to the previous. The lowest ultrawide res is 2560x1080 and can be more often found on 29-inch panels. And here's where it gets a little confusing. You can also find this resolution on 34 inches, although the more common res for that size is 3440x1440. Add to this the different features like curved, non-curved, high refresh or not, FreeSync or G-Sync, and manufacturers that bring lower than 29 inches and higher than 34-inch panels, and you got yourself a confusion going on. I split my choices in 5 categories with prices as seen below. Check the description if you want to jump to a specific one. You will see personal picks from these price brackets and will also note quite a few LG monitors here. This is not brand preference, but simply the fact that LG has its ultrawide range extremely populated, with more than 20 monitors available on the market right now, ranging from budget to premium and very small to very large. There are no TN panels here, just IPS and VA ones. Without going into detail, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I'd credit whoever did this shot if I knew who they were, but you can see the differences between them: color accuracy and saturation, viewing angles, and although not present in the shot, there's also response times, with IPS slower, VA the middle road, and TN the fastest. However, lines are getting blurred nowadays between all these technologies. Let's start with my first pick in the $150 to $250 range, the LG 25 UM58-P at $179. We already have a deviation from the standardish panel size, with this monitor being only 25 inches. The resolution is 2560x1080 and it comes with an 8-bit IPS panel though, but sadly no adaptive sync technology, curve, or other bells and whistles. If you must absolutely switch to an ultrawide and budget is limited, you can get this monitor. It's an okay pick. Just be aware of the fact that this display height is equivalent to that of a 19-incher in 16x9 land. If you pony up a little more dough, at $249 you can get essentially the same monitor but with a 29-inch display. Height of 29-inch models is roughly equivalent to 24-inch 16x9 panels. Sadly, you are trading the bigger size for a 6-bit display plus FRC, so no true 8-bit option like on the cheaper 25-inch monitor. Still no adaptive sync, curve, or other stuff, but a decent ultrawide for the price. Moving on to the second category, and by the way, LG kinda exclusively populates my choices in these first 2 categories. At $379 you essentially get the updated previous 29-incher, so we still have that 6-bit IPS panel prone to dithering in some cases. The only thing setting it apart, except the higher price tag, is the inclusion of FreeSync. So the res is still 2560x1080 with a FreeSync range manageable 48 to 75 Hz. And I can't stress enough how important adaptive sync technologies like FreeSync and G-Sync are for some games. It truly makes a difference, and I have not met anyone yet that doesn't feel that difference. The second choice in this category, coming in at $399, is the monitor I'm currently using and have reviewed here on the channel, the LG 29 UC88-B. Make sure to check that video out later for more details. It is the first monitor in this lineup to combine an excellent feature set with a decent price tag. Coming in with the same 2560x1080 resolution, it adds some really nice stuff for only $20 more than the previous LG by adding a true 8-bit IPS, a higher FreeSync range, 48 40 to 75 Hz, and a nice subtle curve to top it all off. It also has a more premium build and design to it, if that is truly important at this price point. I still consider this monitor to be the best ultrawide pick for under $400. This was even on sale at a much lower price, so make sure to shop around if you are interested in buying it. In the third category, $550 to $800, we start seeing options from other manufacturers, like the Acer XZ350CU at $589. This is a very popular price bracket and also where things start getting segmented. This is 35 inches, not 34, comes with an 8-bit plus FRC VA panel and pairs its still 2560 by 1080 res with a freezing range of 45 to 144 Hz. This is why I said that things get confusing, since it's a fairly low res for such a huge display and is prone to jagged edges due to high pixel sizes. So this is a high refresh ultra-wide, first one in this lineup. Presumably to achieve a low retail price, Acer opted for a curved VA instead of an IPS panel. Even though you get the option of 144 Hz on this, there is some smearing due to response times on the VA display. Also, viewing angles are not excellent and this might be a problem since this is a huge 35 inches. Due to the blur effect, I'd stick to lower than 120 Hz on this monitor, but it is a good choice for high refresh rate fans that do not want to murder their budget. If you're willing to spend an extra $100 or so, there's the LG 34UC79G, another monitor that I've reviewed here on the channel, which is in the same vein as the previous Acer, but comes with an 8-bit IPS panel. The curved 2560 by 1080 res display is paired with FreeSync technology and a range of 50 to 144 Hz. Viewing angles are definitely better than the Acer and it comes with a 1 millisecond blur reduction feature which essentially strobes the backlight according to the set refresh rate. So 144 times a second for 144 Hz. This helps with response times, but it doesn't work with FreeSync, and although there is no noticeable flicker at 100 Hz plus, it does make the display dimmer, of course. Personally, I like the monitor and with some fiddling in the menus you can get a really good image for your gaming needs. Check out my full review on the channel here. Adding an extra $100 gets you another 34-incher from LG, the 34UC88-B, but with 3440 by 1440 resolution this time. No high refresh rate, but it has an IPS 8-bit plus FRC panel, a nice curve and freezing range of 48 to 75 Hz. 48 is kinda limiting at this res, but this is what you get for the money. It has good factory panel calibration and is more or less the equivalent of my LG 29UC88-B, but with a bigger panel and more pixels. No fancy strobing backlights on this or other stuff, but it's a very good monitor at this price and is sometimes found on sale for $100 less. As in the case of 2560 by 1080 on a high refresh monitor, this also requires adequate GPU horsepower. Last but not least, at $799 is Acer's response to the previous LG monitor. Specs are identical except response time, which is a declared 1 millisecond lower, 4 milliseconds on the Acer versus 5 on the LG, and a higher freezing range, 30 to 75 Hz, which is excellent at this 3440 by 1440 resolution. There are no standout issues with this except backlight bleed, but nearly all IPS panels exhibit some bleed. It doesn't come so nicely calibrated from Acer, but the IPS panel still has excellent viewing angles and colors. A great choice at this price point all in all. Moving on to the fourth category, $900 to $1,100, where I have 3 picks from different manufacturers. So starting at $949 is the newly released Samsung CF791. 34 inches, 3440 res, 4 milliseconds response time, and FreeSync support between 48 and 100 Hz. Sounds great, what is the catch? Well, not really a catch, but this is not IPS, it's a VA with quantum dot backlighting. Yes, backlighting, not the real deal QD display. This comes with a huge curvature of 1500R on its 8-bit plus FRC panel and has a very stylish design. This is really good on paper and it's not a bad monitor, it's just that Samsung still has some tweaking to do. There's FreeSync flicker issues and backlight galore on some panels and other quirky stuff, but when they fix it and you can get this on sale for $100 less, it's going to be an awesome choice. The $999 Acer Predator Z35 is up next. This is essentially the same thing as the previous XZ350CU more or less, except it has G-Sync instead of FreeSync, so this is the first G-Sync monitor in this lineup. The same precautions apply about the response times of its VA panel. It's still one of the cheapest, big, high refresh with G-Sync monitors on the market right now. There's a huge, almost $400 difference between this and the FreeSync XZ350CU. Since the VA panel behaves similarly and we are talking about the same high refresh rate support, it's kinda obvious how FreeSync is taking off compared to G-Sync. Last but definitely not least, the LG 34UC98 at $999 as well. This is their flagship for 34 inches and 3440 res. Curved IPS 8-bit plus FRC panel, 5 milliseconds response time and FreeSync support between 55 and 75 Hz. That range is really not helpful, but this is tailored less towards gamers and more towards professionals. But that excellent panel kinda makes it awesome for gaming as well, provided you have the GPU horsepower to stay in that narrow FreeSync range. And the last category, $1,300+ with again 3 choices from 3 different manufacturers. So starting off at $1,299 is the Asus ROG PG348Q, a very bold gaming oriented design with a projected ROG logo from its stand and very futuristic curves and imprints on its back. You either hate it or love it, there's no middle way. This is a 34-inch 3440 res 5 milliseconds response time curved IPS panel with G-Sync support up to 100 Hz. This has very good response times and low lag, backed up by great viewing angles. There's a standard IPS glow which might scare some people off or make others just not interested at all, but I like the design and features. It's just that huge asking price as with any ROG products from Asus. Naturally, Acer also has a response to this monitor in the form of the Predator X34, essentially doing the same things at the same price, so not going to repeat myself. The design is however more down to earth on it, although the price is still sky high at $1,299. Good response times, great viewing angles thanks to the IPS display, G-Sync up to 100 Hz and a curve. Sounds great, but again, that price tag though. And the most expensive monitor featured in today's lineup is the LG 38UC99. It's also the biggest ultrawide monitor on the market right now with 37.5 inches, 3840 by 1600 res, still ultrawide 21:9, just even more pixels, excellent IPS panel but $1,499. This is geared mainly towards professionals and you can spot this in the conservative but premium and non-futuristic design. There's no gaming oriented features, that's why it only has FreeSync support with a range of 52 to 75 Hz. So this is not only one of the most limiting ranges here, but this is the biggest ultrawide res so far. This just screams for a fast Vega card, you know that. 14 monitors, 5 price categories. I really hope this video made things just a little bit more clear for you guys. The biggest conundrum, and this is where the bulk of ultrawide questions come my way, is what should I choose between 2560 by 1080 on a high refresh rate monitor versus 3440 by 1440 on a more down-to-earth, let's say 75 Hz option? Well, it's your choice, and it's your choice because you know what you value the most, either high refresh rate or a bigger resolution. What I can tell you for certain is the fact that between these two cases, GPU horsepower is about the same. In the first case, you're driving a lower resolution but need more frames, and in the second case, well, you're pushing more pixels, so that makes sense. I want to see your comments, questions and suggestions down below as usual. Thank you for supporting this channel by subscribing, and see you next time everybody. Bye bye.